So the Zach Wilson era in New York has officially come to an end today. As a day of recording on Monday, the New York Jets have traded Zach Wilson along with a 7th round pick this year to the Denver Broncos in exchange for this year's 6th round pick. So there's a lot to unpack with this. Different ways I can break this down. First off, we'll break down the trade for Zach Wilson, the draft implications, and also what do I think about Zach Wilson's time in with Denver, if it lasts for a year at least. So first off, let's talk about the trade. This is not to be, nothing to be surprised about for the compensation. It's been very difficult for the Jets to get any type of compensation back for the former 2nd overall pick back in 2021 because of just the lackluster performances he's had, if that's putting it nicely. He has played awful, no doubt, and you're seeing from Pro Football Focus the stats and the gradings, and you see the stats per game, what he's done. It's abysmal. There's way too many games of 0 touchdowns for any type of caliber quarterback in the league, for any starter, whether you want to say they're great, elite, horrible, average, whatever you want to put the label on them, for any starting quarterback to have this many games of 0 touchdowns is unacceptable, and to have this many games of under 200 passing yards is unacceptable. You look at the completion percentages, again, awful. He goes as far as to say of a 46% completion percentage, even week 15. Play very small in that, but 36.4. Don't want to put too much on that because, again, didn't play a lot in it. But to get too many under 60%, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 7 games of under 60% completion percentage. Now, not all entirely him. Good portion is on him, but some things we talked about in my, a couple of my mock drafts is just the offensive line is not good. Nathaniel Hackett, as offensive coordinator, is not good. Robert Saleh could also be up there too as a problem as well, on top of the Jets organization. So there's a ton of blame to go around. But just focusing on Zach Wilson himself, it's been horrible to say the least. You look at the career stats, again, horrible, no doubt. Has failed to pass over 10 passing touchdowns. So there's no question, not surprising, that they got very little compensation back, a 6th round pick in return, and they had to give up a pick on top of Zach Wilson to even get that 6th round pick. So it's admitting failure. They kind of already admitted failure with the Aaron Rodgers trade in last offseason, but it's what's done was done. Kind of quickly breaking down his contract, he is set to make $2.7 million this year. His 5th-year option, if they do pick that up, is $22.4, but the Jets have paid $5.5 million of that already, so it's a little bit of a takes a little bit of a lowers it down a tad bit for his 5th-year option, but kind of give you a sneak peek on my thoughts on Zach Wilson. I highly doubt that the Broncos pick up the 5th-year option. I really do. But once again, it's been abysmal for Zach Wilson in his tenure for the Denver Broncos, for the New York Jets as a 2nd overall pick. So that's my thoughts on the trade. Moving on to the draft, what does this mean for Zach Wilson and for the Denver Broncos? I'm still going to leave the door open for the Denver Broncos to draft a quarterback. There's all possibilities are out there, are on the table. They can move up to the top 4 pick to select Zach Wilson. Fumbling my words, apologies. Moving up to get a top quarterback in this draft class. They could stay put at 11 and still draft a quarterback, or they could maybe wait until the 2nd round. If Bo Nix or Michael Penix, whoever may be available, they could maybe trade up and select that guy. Or the possibility is they let Zach Wilson play for 2024 and see how he does. But I do believe for my personal guess, I do believe Zach Wilson, whether it's the right decision or not, deters them from getting a quarterback. I do believe they want to try and see what Zach Wilson is capable of this year, and I think for that spot at 11, or excuse me, at 12, 11's Minnesota. At 12, you can get someone like a Brock Bowers, or maybe get an offensive lineman, Or if you want to go a little bit high in the drafting process, get a fourth wide receiver. I mean, at that point, no question, Harrison Jr., Neighbors, and the Dunze are going to be gone. So maybe you go as high as to pick Brian Thomas Jr. at 12. That could be a possibility. Or you go to the defensive route, get a corner Quincy Mitchell, or you get Dallas Turner if he's available, if he falls there, or Jared Verse. There's so many different directions they can go at 12. Maybe it'd be better if they trade back a little bit. But again, I think everything's on the table. But if I had to guess for at least a quarterback position-wise, I am going to guess that they are going to give Zach Wilson the opportunity this season to see what he can do. Because if not, they're going to have a high draft pick in 2025 and be in contention with one of the top quarterbacks in that class and be in a better spot to select one, as opposed to, again, with this one, you're going to have to give even more draft compensation they've had to do on top of Russell Wilson and other aspects as well at 12. A little bit difficult. Is it possible for them to move up and give up more that they should have? Or even more, dig themselves in a deeper hole in terms of draft compensation? They could and get one of the top guys, but my gut feeling is that they're going to stick with Zach Wilson this year and see what he does and get someone like, again, a Brock Bowers or whoever they wanted to on that side. I think offense should be key with the 12th overall pick in that selection. So next we are going to move on to the last part of it. What do I think Zach Wilson is going to do for the Denver Broncos? And kind of continuing off at the end of what I said for the draft process, I'm not expecting too much from Zach Wilson. I think he's going to a different change of scenery, and I think that will help him a tad bit. But he's going to this different team, same problems, maybe problems in different areas of the team, but no doubt still going to a dysfunctional franchise. I mean, it's a team that's still trying to get back to the playoffs since winning the Super Bowl in 2015. And you look at how stacked that team was in 2015, ever since they lost Peyton Manning. Even in 2015, he was not that good. Through 17 interceptions, Brock Osweiler had to come in and kind of steer the ship a little bit before Peyton Manning came back. But after that, it's been a disaster. It really has been. You look at it looked like a slam dunk for sure that Russell Wilson was going to work. It had to work. It's Russell Wilson. Why wouldn't it work? And for them, they figured out a way to make that fail as well. So they are on to the next process once again, going to find their next franchise quarterback. I don't think Zach Wilson is that. I think he's a stopgap. And it reminds me similar of Miami in 2019 when they gave Josh Rosen the opportunity, though he wasn't given a big opportunity there. They get the 5th overall pick because of the 2019 season and draft Tua. They're as of right now, still their franchise quarterback going into his 5th season. And now for the Broncos, looking at their perspective, they are going close to 10 years since making the playoffs and winning a playoff game. Essentially, once again, going back to Super Bowl 50, beating Carolina and winning their third Super Bowl in franchise history. It's been a dark time since then. Once again, for Zach Wilson, I'm not expecting too much. Maybe he could surprise us all, but looking at the roster itself for the offensive pieces, they got rid of Jared Jeudy. There's been speculation about Courtland Sutton potentially maybe he'll be moving off of him. After that, there's just not too many offensive weapons. I mean, just shifting quickly, back to what I said for the draft process, they could get someone like Brock Bowers, by far the best tight end and one of the best offensive players in this draft class. Maybe you go wide receiver. Maybe you trade up a tad bit in the draft to get a wide receiver. But overall, what I keep saying over and over again, I think they will give Zach Wilson a chance. His final opportunity in the NFL, which we thought maybe last year was his final chance to really prove himself. I think this year is certainly no doubt his final attempt to show people that he is competent, to say the least, or at least respectable in some aspects. But my guess is what I said as well. It's a few minutes ago. I think it's going to fail, and they will have a top pick next year in 2025, and be in a much better position to take one of the top quarterbacks in the draft class. When we get to that point, whoever that may be, and however that shakes out to be. When that time comes, who knows? But it's a much better spot than they are in this case. And once again, could they trade up in the top 4 to select a quarterback and give up more assets on top of that? It's certainly a possibility. But with the Denver Broncos, how they've run the last few seasons, especially the last few seasons, it's who knows at this point. I mean, it won't even surprise me. It sounds like a Denver move to give Zach Wilson the starting job. Even before that, you look at their QB room, they had Jared Stidham and Ben DiNucci as their cornerback. So And they had no problem of eating, what was it, $80+ million in dead cap, getting rid of Russell Wilson. So they have no problem making bad decisions after bad decisions. So overall, it's low risk, low reward for the Denver Broncos in this case. They give up a 6th-round pick to try out, athletically still a great quarterback with the physical tool sets, maybe a tad bit undersized, but it has good mobility, good athleticism, solid arm. So the makeup is there. It's just the intangibles is lacking. And again, I think he's a little bit damaged goods from the New York Jets. So I don't think this will pan out. But once again, just recapping what we said in the beginning of the video, the Denver Broncos have traded for Zach Wilson in exchange for a 2024 6th-round pick. Be interested to see how that pans out this year, but don't expect too much.